Okay, we're in Hilchos Shabbos, the Mishneh Torah, laws of Shabbat, laws of Halakha, Havdalah, and the bringing in of Shabbat, bringing in the holiness. It says, Perik, we're in Perik Tish'ah Ve'esrim, chapter 29, Pasuk Aleph, verse 1. It says, Mitzvahs aseh min haTorah lekadesh es yom haShabbat bidvarim. It says it is a positive commandment of scriptural origin to sanctify the Shabbat day with a verbal statement, as implied by Exodus 20, verse 8. Okay, and it says, Shnei Amar, Zachor, remember es yom haShabbat lechadsho kelomar, and it says that we are to remember the Sabbath day, to sanctify, remember it with words of praise that reflect its holiness. Okay, and so when we're commanded to sanctify the Shabbat, and with words we are to zachar, remember the Shabbat, to sanctify it, and it says kelomar, remember it with the praise at Kiddush. It has to be with words, not thinking in your mind, because in the Sifrei, which is a midrash on halakha, and it says Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Shabbat, lechadsho, to keep it holy. It also says besides Zachor, it says Shamor, which means guarding. That is already something of the heart. We are already internalizing this. So Zakar tells me, say it with the mouth. So this is how the rabbis understand the pasuk. It goes on. The remembrance must be made at the Shabbat's entrance and at its departure at the day's entrance, with the Kiddush that sanctifies the day at its departure with Havdalah. So there's actually two aspects. You mention it verbally and you sanctify it. And you have to mention it when you enter into Shabbat and when it leaves. Okay, this is how the rabbis understand it. The first mention of, even the Rambam's notes, the first mention is of the 10 Commandments is Exodus chapter 20. We are commanded to remember, Zachor, the Shabbat. Okay, in verse 2, we say in verse 2, what does it say here? It says, this is the text of the Kiddush that sanctifies the day. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has desired us. For he has given us his holy Shabbat with love and favor, as in its inheritance and commemoration of the work of creation. It is the first of convocations of holiness, a commemoration of the exodus from Mitzrayim, from Egypt. And you have chosen us and sanctified us from among all the nations. Okay? From all the nations. And it says, Ki banu becharta ve'osanu kadsha ki dashta micho ha'amin. And from all the nations. So it says, with love and favor, you have granted us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Blessed are you, Adonai, and blessed are you, Hashem, who sanctifies the Shabbat. And so, what's going on for creation? This is the creation. It's the beginning of holiness took place in creation. It's remembrance of going out of Mitzrayim. So the first point, we don't start off like a Yom Tiv. What's the first clause of a Yom Tiv? We say, Asher Bachar Banu Micho Ha'olamim, that you chose us from all the people. And that's how Yom Tiv starts off. Right? There we say, We say, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvah tav, you sanctified us with your mitzvot. So why is that? Because Shabbos came before the Jewish people were chosen. Shabbos was given where? In Marah. When we came out of Mitzrayim, before we came to Sinai. This was pre-10 Commandments. It says in the second set of the commandments that we are to remember the Shabbos and sanctify it, like Hashem already commanded us. So when did he command us already? The rabbis say that was at Marah, where we already were commanded. So we see that Hashem gives us the command, and before we became the chosen people. That was at Matan Torah. That's when we became the chosen people. And it says, up to leading to the giving of the Torah, it says in Devarim that you will be a treasured people, that you will be a treasured people. At Sinai, we became the chosen people, and the holidays came after Sinai in Sefer Vayikra. And in Sefer Devarim, we should remember that we were a slave in Egypt. Okay, we were a slave in Egypt, and we're to remember that. And Hashem took us out with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. And Hashem said, you should keep Shabbos. Right? And even Rambam says, in Moreh HaNevachim, in the Guide of the Perplexed, the Rambam explains the connection between the Exodus from Egypt and Shabbat. In Egypt, the Jews were slaves and are unable to control when they could cease to work and rest. By ceasing work every week, they would recall God's kindness in delivering them. And so, also, it says here in the beginning of the bracha, it says with love and favor. And at the end, we close with love and favor, because the Rambam says this is the beginning. The ending is like the beginning. That's what he says. And so, continuing in verse 3, Pasuk Gimel, this is what we say on Shabbat. This is what we sing. Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam hamadvel ben chodesh lecho uvein or lechoshek ben Yisrael la'amim uvein yom hashevi l'sheshe yamei hamaseh. Baruch atah Hashem hamavdil ben chodesh lecho. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who distinguishes between holy and the mundane, between the light and darkness, between Israel and the nations, and between the 7th day and the 6 days of activity. Blessed are you, Hashem, who distinguishes between the holy and mundane. And verse 4, we go on to verse 4, and it says, the essence of the mitzvah of sanctifying the Shabbat is to do so at night. If a person does not recite Kiddush at night, whether intentionally or inadvertently, he may recite Kiddush through the entire Shabbat day. And the main part of the Kiddush of Shabbos is done at night, the beginning of Shabbat, because the Torah tells us to keep it holy when night falls Friday night. That's when night falls on Friday night. This is the beginning of Shabbat. Now, it says, a person who does not recite Havdalah at night may recite this blessing on the following day. And indeed, he may recite this blessing until nightfall on Tuesday, if he does not fulfill his obligation beforehand. And so, let's say the person skips out on Havdalah, unintentional or even intentional. He got in a fight with his wife or something, and he ran upstairs and locked himself in the room, even though this isn't good, but things happen. Or the person was tired and he went to bed, or he wasn't just feeling well and he missed doing Havdalah. So what happens? You can make Kiddush anytime on Shabbos. You can make Kiddush during the day as a Friday night Kiddush. This is the whole thing. Now, what if you did not make Havdalah at night? And it goes on. It says, a person who does not recite Havdalah at night may recite this blessing on the following day, and indeed may recite this blessing until nightfall on Tuesday if he does not fulfill his obligation beforehand. Although the Havdalah blessing may be recited at a later time, one should recite the blessing on a flame only Saturday night. Okay, so you can make Kiddush anytime on Shabbat. You can make Kiddush during the day as a Friday night Kiddush. This is allowed. And now, what if you do not make Havdalah at night? You can make Havdalah the next day on Sunday, and even until the third day, Tuesday, late afternoon, the rabbis say. Because the Rambam says, this is the commentary, it says the first 3 days of the week are still associated with the previous Shabbat. Therefore, the recitation of Havdalah is still appropriate because the first 3 days of the week connect to the end of the week. And I just wanted to share a little bit of halakha on Havdalah. I know I was fumbling with my words a little bit. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I can even explain more of what the Rambam says in the next few verses on Kiddush and how to do Kiddush and these things, Havdalah, and all of that. So may everyone have a good Shabbos. Maybe after Havdalah, I can explain more. Anyways, yes, Shabbat Shalom. May everyone have a great Shabbos.